Hi there, here are my top tips for keeping healthy whilst you work at home. I don't know about you, but this has been a massive change for me because I'm normally working in classes, teaching students, meeting colleagues and walking around and generally keeping quite active and keeping my work and home space separate. But now we've had to adjust and change because of the pandemic, unfortunately. So here's how to make it healthier where you're working. Top tip number 1. Sit by a window if possible. When you've got the window and the natural daylight, it's really brilliant for you as your brain actually makes a wee bit of serotonin in the presence of natural light, especially sunlight. And I like to work away from the electronic, no, they're not all electronic, fluorescent lights. I like to have my own daylight, so that's really brilliant for me. It really makes me feel better. And I used to get headaches with using artificial lights, so I prefer to have natural light. So that's top tip number 1. Number 2, get rid of the noise. So what noise is round about you that you can actually get rid of? So for me, we have a bit of traffic, but across the road from where I am, there was a guy making lots of noise, doing all sorts of renovations in his house over summer. But I learned to tune it out, and it felt me a wee bit more connected with people around about me when that was going on. Plus it's nice to hear the kids coming home at 4 o'clock or 3 o'clock depending on where you live. So there's some noises that we can tune out and some that we can't. So put on headphones if it's difficult or you can't hear people very well on your machine, and that will reduce the amount of stress that you have. Number 3, top tip number 3 is declutter. So I'm not really good at this. I've got lots of clutter, but what I try and do is make sure there's not a lot of clutter around where I am so that I can find what I need. And when we declutter, we actually reduce the amount of extra stimulation. We don't need it when we're working. We want to try and keep focused on what we're doing so that we can take this regular breaks, which is another thing I'll talk to you about in a minute. Standing up is my top tip number 4. How often do you stand up? Well, I try and stand up in between meetings and make sure that I walk up and down my stairs to go and get a regular break, a drink, or a cup of tea, whatever. And that's really, really good for you. And of course you can do some stretches and some rolling of the shoulders and things just to keep yourself moving and change your position. And doing all of that will actually help prevent any muscle aches and pains. I prefer yoga as well. I love yoga, so I've got lots of nice yoga stretches that I incorporate into my day just to help put out all these wee kinks and things. Another thing you can do is use plants, and I've got some little plants on my windowsill, and these are lovely because it makes you think of nature. But I'm also very fortunate because out of my window I have, well, a lot of rain today as it happens, but we have lots of greenery, we have lots of trees nearby, and I can see grass, and it makes a much more relaxed atmosphere for me. So unlike working actually in my office at the university, there's not any trees around about us, it's mostly other buildings. So it's nice for me to be able to look out and see trees. And again, it gives the brain a bit of a break. It's softer, it's not so all the hard lines that you have when you're actually doing all your reading and writing, which is really, really good. I did say take breaks earlier, but also what's brilliant is having some social contact. So that's my final tip, is social contact. Do you see people during the day? Do you have a chat with them? So can you get a wee walk out at lunchtime? Can you go and say hello to your neighbours? Or even if you've got a partner at home or someone else at home, have a conversation with them. Something that's different and doesn't require a mask. Certainly I know I make a point of saying hello to people when I go by and making sure that everyone's okay, but we can't always make sure that. Everyone's got to look after themselves a lot. And of course, another big top tip for me is keep hydrated. This isn't one of the 5 or 6 top tips, but this is my thing. I always have a big glass of water beside me to make sure that I'm hydrated all the time. And I go for the healthy snacks. I had some nuts and raisins this morning at my desk whilst I was working, and a nice healthy lunch. Maybe today was an omelette for me. So lots of different things. Keep yourself nourished, but also look after yourself. I'll be back with some more tips soon.